Good morning. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. I am Leon Dunkley. I minister to the North Universalist Chapel Society, or North Chapel, here in Woodstock, Vermont. I'm speaking to you, or I would like to be speaking to you, from the covered bridge that leads right onto the green. It's a little too busy right now, so I can't quite make it work out. But imagine being there. Imagine yourself on that bridge with a river to cross. Just picture that for a moment. Today is Sunday, May the 24th, one day after my 55th birthday. And this morning's reflection is entitled, Repair the Wooden Bridge. It is my small attempt to stand with those who think differently than I do. To this service and to this good day, I bid you welcome. To all souls, I say good morning. It is good to be together. Do you know the story about the two warring neighbors? Proud farming types they were, lived close to the land, salt to the earth. They lived the good life. But they fought, and they fought terribly one day. And then they stopped talking to one another altogether, all behind a disagreement about the ownership of a cat, no less. Each of them thought it was theirs. They couldn't settle it. So they stopped talking, and during this time a traveler came through, looking for work. A carpenter he was. The first farmer said, well, you know what, I've got some work for you. Can you see my neighbor's house across the field right there, past that little creek that's running through the land? And the carpenter nodded yes. My neighbor dug that creek with his plow. He's dividing us up, and I'm going to finish the job. He said, I want you to build a fence. Can you do that? All the way across. And the carpenter nodded, said, yes, I can do that, but I'm going to need a lot more wood. I could get started with the wood you have up here in the shed, but you'll have to go into town and get the rest of what we need. And the first farmer agrees, and he goes into town and he gets the supplies. But when he comes back and he looks out into the field where his new fence ought to be, the carpenter has built a bridge out of his wood, from his neighbor's yard, from his neighbor's land, onto his land. So right then, the neighbor comes out of his house, and he comes across the field, and then he comes over the bridge with his hand outstretched, walking, big old stupid smile on his face. And the second farmer says, you're a brave man. I didn't think you'd ever want to hear the sound of my voice again. I feel like such a fool. Can you forgive me? And the first farmer says, the first farmer did forgive him, and they entered into a new period of renewed friendship. But he just rather stumbled into wisdom. But it enriched his life nevertheless. In fact, when I think about it, I think that's how wisdom works. We stumble into wisdom, and wisdom stumbles into us. We are wise to pay attention when we accidentally lose our footing. I stumbled when I came upon this bridge. Not the bridge in Woodstock that I mentioned earlier. That's not quite what I mean. There are many kinds of bridges, and they can be made out of different things, out of stone, steel, wood, rope, even flowers, if you go down to Shelburne Falls in western Massachusetts. For bridges like these, for bridges like the one that I wish that I were standing on, I have no idea how to fix them. So I appreciate the ones that do, thank God for them. But I'm thinking about bridges of a different type, artful bridges, maybe like you could see in a movie, bridges like the one in A Bridge Too Far with the young Sean Connery in 1977, or A Bridge Over the River Kwai with William Holden 20 years later, or the bridges of Madison County with Eastward and Streep in 1995. I suppose we could count the actors too, Jeff Bridges, Beau Bridges, Lloyd, Todd, Jordan. And I would be remiss if I didn't include the women, Bridget Fonda, Bridget Nelson, Bridget Jones, even though she's fictional. Of course, these are not the bridges that I mean. I mean bridges that are made out of hope, out of love, out of forgiveness, out of poetry. Spirit guides us to build bridges out of anything we can, but they sometimes collapse, and when they do, it can be dangerous. I'm more confident with my ability to repair bridges of this kind when they break. I often find myself committed to rebuilding bridges of this kind when they burn. It's a skill that I have, and we all have it. It isn't rare. I'm not particularly good at it. I'm just confident and committed. What I achieve is never as elegant as the middle covered bridge in Woodstock, but it connects me to the people that I love, and that's the point of building bridges, isn't it? The opening hymn this morning is, "How Can I Keep From Singing?" Would you please rise in body and spirit and safely conjoin the music? I light a candle this morning for the bridge builders. We could use their skills today, with so many of our artful bridges burning or in states of disrepair. The bridge builders bring us back into togetherness. One of the news shows that I like to watch recently ran a 10-year-old clip of Mitch McConnell suggesting to his fellow Republican leaders that their top priority over the next 2 years should be to deny President Obama a second term in office. His comment met with mixed reviews. He was criticized for saying what he did, but he meant it, and he said it again to clarify his position. I'm not surprised or offended by this. I'm disquieted. I know that if a different president were in office now, one who had made safer choices about closing down the country much earlier, saving tens of thousands of lives and trillions of dollars, Senator McConnell does not signal to me that he's the kind of person who would have said, "I'm glad that the president that I prefer is not in office on this issue." I'm afraid that he and others would have been on the attack. It's too dog eat dog these days, and it isn't getting us anywhere. In fact, we're dying from it. In the Iliad, King Priam cried out as he watched his city crumbling, "Right now, we are that brave city falling down." The rancor of political life has been rife for so long, and it's not getting easier. The younger folks are feeling it, and they've been feeling it for a while now. 2 years ago, there was a high school graduation in Kentucky, and a young man named Ben Bowling, the valedictorian, addressed his classmates. He stood before them in his gown and cap and tassel on his head, and the smartest guy in the school quoted the president, and this he said, "Don't get involved. Fight for a seat at the table. Better yet, fight for the seat at the head of the table, Donald J. Trump." This was his advice to the graduating class of 2018. Cheers issued forth from the crowd, but then he readdressed the microphone and he said, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. That quote was actually from Barack Obama. And then there was laughter and a slight pit of discomfort, and then there was some booing. And that crystallized something for me. I think it's fascinating sometimes that the same words of advice can elicit different reactions from a crowd depending solely on the attribution. We seem so stranded from each other sometimes. We need more bridges of connection. Sometimes I feel like we have so few, so I light a candle this morning for the bridge builders of the world. I light 3 other candles ritualistically for those who are ill. A candle burns for your quick recovery. For those who suffer economic challenges, a candle burns in the hope that your needs will be soon met. For those who are feeling fearful, anxious, angry, a candle burns for your strength, your resilience, and your courage. For all that has been spoken, and for all that remains within the silent sanctuary of our hearts, may we be forever grateful for these days we spend together, these days that have our names written upon them. For this, I will light one more candle. May we hold all of this in compassionate communities as we enter a time of meditation and prayerfulness. I learned to sing America the Beautiful from Ray Charles, from this album, which is called A Message to the People. And if you turn it over, you can see that the album's full title is A Message from the People, by the people, and for the people. I rather like that. There's great music on this album. Lift Every Voice and Sing, Abraham, Martin, and John, Take Me Home, Country Roads, and America the Beautiful. The first verse is the one that really got me. Oh, beautiful, our heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self our country loved, and mercy more than life. It's an amazing verse. I love that verse. I had not learned that when I was a child. I learned, oh, beautiful, for spacious skies and amber waves of grain. But this verse had teeth, this one that Ray Charles was teaching me. I couldn't really imagine what a purple mountain was, but I did know what it meant to try to be a hero. So of course, I love this verse. It meant a lot to me. They didn't appear, these words didn't appear in the original 1893 version of America the Beautiful. They didn't appear in the first revision that happened in 1904, but they did appear by 1911. And we've been singing them that way ever since, for more than 100 years. I like this anthem. There are lots of anthems that we could sing. Some are national and some are not. The ones I like most probably are not anthems, technically, even though they would satisfy the definition. An anthem is a rousing or uplifting song identified with a particular group, body, or cause. So you can have a national anthem, but you can also have an anthem for hippie activists. I like those. It's mentioned right there in the definition of the word. Lift Every Voice and Sing is the Negro national anthem, or the Black national anthem. And it was written by James Weldon Johnson in 1905, around the same time as the writing of America the Beautiful. How cool is that? How cool is it also that both of those songs appear on the album by Ray Charles? There was no tension between these songs, not for me. They coalesced. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, lift every voice and sing, for purple mountains' majesty, till earth and heaven ring. They were always almost one song to me, which got harder and harder as life went on. Racism kills that kind of innocence, almost entirely, but not quite. There's still a bridge of deep connection that sustains us. I heard an echo sounding in the soul of Bob Dylan. In Blowing in the Wind, I could hear him. In a song called Subterranean Homesick Blues, which is one of my favorites. In a song called Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie. I did a service with Richard Waddell one time, and I asked him to recite words from this song. And he did. It was part of an extended poem, and it was lovely. When your head gets twisted and your mind grows numb, when you think you're old, too young, too smart, too dumb, when you're lagging behind and losing your pace in the slow motion crawl of life's busy race. It's a long extended poem from Dylan. It's a love poem to his great mentor, Woody Guthrie. Like spirits of Ray Charles and Bob Dylan are driving me today. I like that. They're driving me to fix a bridge. And there's a little funny thing that I learned just recently, which was I'll burn that bridge when I come to it, which is not so useful, but it is a little funny. No, the deeper saying that I know and have known for a long time is that those who cannot forgive burn the very bridges that they themselves need to cross. Those who cannot forgive burn the very bridges that they themselves need to cross. All of this has led me to write an extended poem of my own, driven by my commitment to repair the bridge, to mend what is broken in our world. I would like to share it with you this morning. It's a harsh critique of the culture war. For this, I've tried not to take sides. I have tried to cross my own burning bridges. I don't know how well I've done. You'll have to let me know. The name of the extended poem is called First Thoughts on postmodern bridge repair. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you receive it in the prayer as the prayer that it's meant to be. Once upon a time, we nearly burned democracy by starting tiny little fires that we hoped no one would see. We started one in Charlottesville by saying both sides mattered, both the side behind the driver's wheel and the side that shattered when charging Alex killed a Heather Fair. We started one in Washington. We stocked a court supreme with a man whose boyish mischief drowned in beer and rage extreme. But who's to judge what happened at that party? No one knows, except the woman who resisted when he groped and tore her clothes, and then forgot that she was even there. We started one on Myrtle Beach before a crowd of thousands, mocked a man disabled for the views that he espoused, and ever since the man we mocked and scorned and made fun of, he's like a cause celeb and his vile abuse a bloody glove, fingering like a Brentwood racial slur. Lingering on the lawn, we struck another journalist. She asked one too many questions, meaning one, but with a twist. Kings like Nero, Caesar, Ahab, Claudius, and Nixon fall when pushed too hard. They don't survive the crucifixion. They reinvent the way things never were. Weak becomes the storyline and weaker still the poet. Fragile is the levee when the waters overflow it. Don't depend on kings if they distrust the best within you. Cast your lot with Jesus. Bet in Vegas. They can win you prizes, things that broken kings cannot. Sorrowful the violin and violent the bowing. Stealthy thieves succeed, they take without our even knowing. Empty as a pocket, Paul of Simon wrote these words. Saul of Tarsus wrote before him, so moved by what he'd heard, love thy neighbor self, but we forgot. So we've come to settle for the bitterness and green of lesser kings made holy by the media machine. Pundits on the left and on the right, and God knows where, ranting at the ravings of the others on the air, will we save or kill the fourth estate? Choosing facts for pleasure, crafting theories on the basis, picking stats to justify the war between the races, losing track and measure of the elements of health, trading for the brokered acquisitioning of wealth, sell it short and shill and liquidate. Now this is the language in the greatest place on earth. This is now the culture in the country of our birth. Rags to riches stories are no longer made to order. They've been all but vanquished by the crisis at the border. But what of dreams, desires of the heart? Patriotic dreams, like those that Man Macron had mentioned. The opposites of nation speak, its dramas hypertensioned and insinuated, twisted and so strangely intertwined with things we used to value more. May God thy goals refine. Singed by Twitter fires that we start. We started one with Lysol, never even said the word. Then we said that we were joking, but the punchline was absurd. Even smartest doctors flanking left and flanking right, once they stood beside us, but they vanished overnight because their questions and suggestions went unused. CEOs of companies that make the disinfectants issued letters of disclaimer. Public health is best protected by the proper use of products to the ends of their design, for purposes unreinvented, altered, or maligned. Saying less just cannot be excused. Starting fires isn't why the fire hose was made. Using it for folly or for fun or masquerade leaves us vulnerable, and this is why they try to warn you. If you think I'm joking, just go ask if California could have used it when their paradise was lost. Lower heaven's burning, and the average fool can see. He who is surprised must be a wiser fool than me. Clearly this is obvious, and everybody knows that the blind have lost their blindness, and the emperor his clothes, shilling hard for praise at any cost. Which is chilling, for we see now, if the king who came before him closed the country sooner, saving thousands, maybe more, Fox and friends, McConnell types, still would sup the bait. They blamed that king for everything, from SARS to Watergate, even though Pres O was just 11. Ghosts of Merrick Garland, Moses Wright, and Johnny Mathis argue with the scarecrow to determine what the path is. Elton John and Dorothy, the road of yellow brick, which is east and west of us, but which the witch betwixt? I'd ask Auntie M, but she's in heaven. She and Henry lost it in that terrible tornado. They sold the Kansas farm and bought a Cherokee Laredo. Dottie's dream was cool and all, but Pink Floyd did it better. She tried to make the concert, but her parents wouldn't let her, said maybe she could hear it on the planes. Everything's a hoax these days, and nothing stands to reason. Life in sound bites, jokes, and we've made law what once was treason. Fake news has real consequences, and real life people die. Alone in COVID hospitals and prisons, asking why, with so much wealth, why such meager gains? Once upon a better time, new things arose in us. Gentle-souled and kind, kings fought without controlling us, fighting for a better way, a higher use of cash, for brave and new directions leading out of the morass. Sadly, though, right now we do not hear. Tweeting, wildly ranting, this king's rage is quite impressive to the steadfast and the brazen and the harsh, at times obsessive. He also is well loved by those whose economic dreams needed to be buoyed, brought to life, or made to seem a bit more sound than things around us that we fear. Red kings serve in ways that are unnerving to the left, preserving things Americans as blue kings get bereft. Purple states like Michigan, New Hampshire, Minnesota would make me long to wish again for Dr. Seuss as POTUS. I rather like his clarity of thought. I like the way he rhymes, his turns of phrase, his lilt, his timing, the general disposition of his heart, his craft, his miming, gestures that can make you smile, and colors loved by kids, stories that can last a while like jars without their lids, homes for all the fireflies we've caught. It's clear enough to me, it's near and dear enough to see that I would cast my vote right now if there were beer enough in me. Now that used to be a slight bit out of bounds, a phrase like that, but it's often tossed around both by the liberal Democrat and by the Republican conservative. This is a new time, my friends. There are no tools for this. Experts that we fired had to make new rules for this. Coronavirus, COVID, and pandemic, such new words. Let's go back to climate-changing, global warming nerds and their science hopes for polar ice preservatives. We are at a turning point. There is no turning back. We are through the looking glass. The trains are off the track. Peacenik hipsters out to lunch while eating sandwich signs. Rebel hard Avengers with old skins and brand new wines, each fighting for the parts but not the whole. America the beautiful, we fought your fate back then. Writing to the president who made us great again, hold us if we stumble, man. And we are stumbling. Trumpets and the wall of Jericho comes tumbling down like Humpty Dumpty tales of old. But we are always more than age-old stories shined up pretty, and we will not be conquered, Priam. We, the fallen city, we, the people, moved by basic goodness, grace and faith beneath, leather-skinned and diamond-hardened with a bit between our teeth, chillin' like Bob Dylan on the stage, dropping words like currency, like money on the floor, some stuff their front pockets, greedy, reaching out for more. Others know that good things grow without the cost in coin. Spirit cash is measured by the values we can join, not by contracts written on a page. Tough behind the wheel, and we do real work with our hands. Rough as stone and steel, we built a nation that withstands all of the trials and tribulations and the petty urgencies. We put them all behind us, faced with real emergencies. Greatness can't be owned by either side. Greatness is the best in us. It is the Kanye West in us. It's Bono with his questions asking what has been repressed in us. It's all of us who can and cannot sport the MAGA hat. It's Late Night John with Amorosa saying, Jesus ain't say that. We are not the things that we deride. It's neither side, not both when we are being made to grow. No one leads who cannot plant the seeds we need to sow. The scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch over his own. King stole that from Reverend James Russell Lowell. Anytime we choose, we can learn to strike a balance. We can choose what tools we have, our treasure, time, and talents. Hush the wolves within us, wolves of kindness, wolves of greed. The wolf who is triumphant is the wolf we choose to feed. Kindness is food basic to the soul. Once upon a time, tomorrow, yesterday, and now, once upon the morning light as heavens will allow, we discover more about ourselves than we expected. Soberly, we clearly see that in Texas, we've elected those who argue money more than life, mercy more than life, is what the lyricists intended when they wrote America the Beautiful. It ended as a patriotic song, but it began much otherwise. Oh, Mother dear Jerusalem was this song's first disguise in 1882 to 95. Over time, this song became more meaningful to us. Whiskey stills and dollar bills proclaim in God we trust. Ray Charles sang it beautifully in 1972. It touched in deeper measure Abe John Martin. They were through. Pray we all, let's keep ourselves alive. Born on this Good Sunday, May the 24th be with us. Martin, John, and Obi-Wan, please love us and forgive us. We can lack the strength we need sometimes. We lack the might to fight the fight that's worth a damn for what we think is right. We lose the silver lining underneath. Once upon this day of ours, may the grace of God shine on we the witnesses, imperfect, weird, and odd. Bless us with the knowledge of the grace that lies within, and grant us all the courage to end up where we begin. Blessed, held by love that does not cease. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Ah.